The 2023-24 football season has been brilliant, with a mix of twists and turns, a pinch of surprise teams, a dollop of teams doing unexpectedly badly, a sprinkle of VAR controversy. Mix it all together and you end up with a cracking league season. But for the majority of leagues around Europe, the season started way back in August and I've slept since then, meaning I've forgotten a lot about what went on during this crazy season. So if you're anything like me and need a refresher on what went down around Europe's top 5 leagues, fear not, as here is my season review for the 2023-24 season. It'll be a different format video to the usual as I've got a lot to go through, so feel free to put it on in the background while you, I don't know, wash the dishes or mow the lawn or whatever. And I'll be going in reverse order from UEFA season coefficients, starting with España, who are somehow in 5th place. The La Liga season started a little oddly. Las Palmas started well and 2/3 through the season were sat in 8th but faded away. Girona were league leaders for a while after their best ever start to a season. And Almeria's bad start to the season only lasted the 28 games, which is how long they went without a win until they beat Las Palmas in March. Funnily enough, their relegation was confirmed in April after they only won 3 times all season. And if you're only going to win 3 matches all season, then you may as well make one of them a mauling. They only survived on the final day last season, and Vicente Moreno came in as expected to make them more competitive after a previous good spell at Espanyol, but he didn't, did he? Then to further rub it in, he got sacked after only 7 matches and moved to Osasuna, the team who Ante Budimir plays for, who took one of the worst penalties I've ever seen against Valencia earlier in the season. And to make it worse, it was the 97th minute of the match and they were losing 1-0. On the subject of good starts, Jude Bellingham scored about 300 in his first 15 games to set a new record. Takefusa Kubo, he who shakes his ass in the air like he just don't care, wasn't far behind, pun intended, with 5 goals in his first 7 games, although only scored 2 more all season. And 17-year-old Mark Boyu scored within 33 seconds after coming off the bench for his Barcelona debut. But for everything good, there must be something bad, and there was a few bad. Sevilla, who were heavily in debt, won only twice in their opening 16 games of the season and have gone through 3 managers since the start of the season. Barca conceded 20 goals last season, but this season their defence had more holes than the story given by Madeleine McCann's parents and conceded double. And Real Madrid found themselves using third choice keeper Andre Lunin after Courtois smashed his ACL in pre-season training and Kepa did Kepa things by being a little bit crap at times. But Lunin did alright. Real Madrid won the league without even having to do anything after Girona beat Barcelona 4-2 on the 4th of May to hand the title to Carlo Ancelotti and his son. This was bizarrely the second time they beat Barcelona 4-2 this season, and the result meant they qualified for the Champions League for the very first time. And all this despite losing top scorer Tati Castellanos to Lazio before the season. When you lose a player who scores 4 goals in one game against Real Madrid last season, he was set to be a big loss. And so was Oriol Romeo, who was stolen by Barcelona, clearly just to spite Girona, but they didn't care. Talking of goals, ex-Premier League flop Christian Stuani finished with a ridiculous goal record of better than a goal every 90 minutes and scored a few important ones. And talking of ex-Premier League flops, Bebe also scored roughly a goal every 90, but as he only scored twice all season, it probably shows just how many minutes he actually played. And when Alexander Sorloth did a Castellanos by smashing 4 goals against Real Madrid, it looked like he would finish as top scorer, until Dovbyk scored a hat-trick in Girona's last game as Granada folded like a cheap suit to finish as the league's top scorer. In what must be some kind of first, Sergio Ramos received the 29th red card of his career playing for Sevilla against Sociedad, and in the same match Jesus Navas got his first red card, like the master showing the apprentice. In other news, Real Madrid only lost once in the league all season. They'll probably be quite annoyed that it was to Atletico, the same team who knocked them out the last 16 stages of the Copa del Rey. Bellingham scored the winner in El Clasico not once but twice. Vinny got abused, as did Nico Williams, which led to the Atletico against Bilbao match being stopped. Bellingham had a header disallowed against Valencia when, let's be honest, the ref could have waited another 5 damn seconds to blow the whistle. And after the match, Jude called the ref a big meanie and got sent off. Over in Barcelona, Xavi announced he was leaving Barca, then changed his mind, calling it a cruel job. So quite why he wants to carry on with it then is anyone's guess. Not that he needed to worry about that, as the club sacked him anyway, then hired Hansi Flick. Almeria fell La Liga 2, La Liga 2, dragging Granada with them who weren't much better, and were followed by Cadiz. In the Copa del Rey, Mallorca were playing their first cup final since lifting the trophy in 2003 against Atletico Bilbao, who went 40 years since their last cup win, losing 6 finals since, but proved it was 7th time lucky by beating Mallorca on pens. And in the Spanish Super Cup, Antoine Griezmann became Atletico's all-time top scorer when he scored against Real Madrid. And when Real Madrid win the league again next season, it will be with Valladolid and Leganes after they got promoted, and one of Eibar, Espanyol, Oviedo or Gijón after the playoffs at the end of June, which I'm not waiting for to include in this video, to be honest. Over in the country of love, and in a turn of events that surprised absolutely no one, PSG won the league, but there were still a few talking points from Ligue, so on y va. That means let's go. PSG won the league by only losing twice all season, once to Toulouse. Nice. Oh, sorry, Nice. It was to Nice. 3-2 at home to Nice, which wasn't nice, I guess. And they won the title by April. It'll be the last time they lift the trophy, not because they're adding all their oil money back, but because the league is being rebranded and a new trophy is being made. The end of the season also saw a top player leaving them. Yes, it's sad, but true. Keylor Navas announced he was leaving to look for another club. But come on, Keylor. You're 38 this year, mate. Give it up. Oh yeah, and Kylian Mbappe also said au revoir to the champs and left at the end of his contract to join Real Madrid, which might surprise you, but he still found the time to score his 300th career goal at the age of 24 years, 10 months and 29 days. Let that sink in. 300th career goal before the age of 25, and still time to share the pitch with his little bro Ethan, who made his Ligue debut. Aww. Warren Zaire-Emery played more, as did Bradley Barcola, as this was allegedly a transition season to make them less reliant on individuals, probably due to Mbappe fucking off. I censored it. We all love a good Brest, and there's been a really good Brest this season as they finished third, with Eddie Cross' team proving a match for most teams. They were helped by Del Castillo creating the most chances in the league with the joint most assists, which still wasn't enough to get him into the France team for the Euros, but in any case Brest had a massive helping hand from Lille. Firstly in May they were beating Lyon 2-1 heading into the 82nd minute at home, putting them in the last Champions League spot, but somehow contrived to lose 4-3 and hand the spot back to Brest. Then on the final day there was incredible drama as heading into the 90th minute of their matches, Brest were winning 2-0 and Lille were winning 2-1, which meant that Lille were in the last Champions League spot by one goal. Just one goal. Then Brest scored their third against Toulouse and Jordan Latomba scored his only goal of the season for Nice in the 93rd minute to equalise to break Lille hearts. But c'est la vie. The big question last year was, will Will still be manager at Reims? And the answer is yes, he will still be manager. And as they finished in 9th, that's enough said about them and him. Some of the traditional big guns had their difficulties. Marseille ended up on their third coach of the season with Jean-Louis Gasset after they fired Gennaro Gattuso. And Marcelino resigned after 7 matches for, quote, intimidation, threats, insult and slander. The big baby.
What a baby. What a big baby. Just get on with the game. Baby.
7 games is also how long Fabio Grosso lasted at Lyon, ended a miserable spell for him as he was also injured after the Lyon bus was attacked by Marseille fans. It was a better season for the ex-Arsenal strikers with Lacazette and Aubameyang both finishing in the top 4 scorers, but perhaps the biggest drama of the season was a big mascot fight between Emily Goren in the red corner and Riri the Canary from Nantes in the yellow corner, and Riri ended up being stretchered off by paramedics, not even joking. When all the dust was settled though after the heavyweight battle, Clermont Foot were appropriately named as they finished at the foot of the table and went down with Lorient, while Metz fought to stay up in the relegation playoff against Saint-Etienne but lost in a thrilling match to be placed in the league by their opponents, who were also joined by Auxerre, who were back after 1 season, and Angers. In the Coupe de France, Lyon made the final against PSG, and guess who won? PSG won. PSG won. In less predictable news, there were 24 penalties in the Rouen vs Toulouse match, with third tier Rouen showing they didn't want to lose by winning the shootout 12-11. And talking of a lengthy process all for nothing, Golden Lion had an 8,000 mile round trip from Martinique to face Lille, only to lose 12-0. Something needs to be done about the French Cup because that's just stupid. Moving on to the supposed best league in the world, which UEFA ranks 3rd. With about a quarter of the season left, there's 1 point separating the top 3, which is quite exciting as the last time anything even remotely similar happened was back in 2010. There was even an exciting transfer window which smashed records, breaking £2 billion for the first time. Huge congratulations to a man named Scott Carson, who won his 4th Premier League title, his 11th trophy, which works out as a trophy every 9.5 minutes that he's played during his City career. I'm not even joking. And talking of 4th title, Man City made it 4 in a row, but not before a bit of drama, as Arsenal's only hope was Spurs beating Man City at home, and as they didn't, there were questions about whether Spurs deliberately lost that Arsenal couldn't win the league, something which annoyed Big Ange. But as it was, it went all the way down to the wire, with Man City winning on the final day by beating West Ham 3-1. Sandro Tonali scored 6 minutes into his Newcastle debut in their 5-0 win over Villa, then he got 10 more. Oh, sorry, misread it, he got 10 months, that's 10 months ban for breaking betting rules, along with his pal Nicola Fagioli of Juventus, who got a 7-month ban. Not wanting to miss out, Lucas Paquetá was charged at the end of the season for more dodgy betting, and you'd have got good odds on that happening. Maybe, I don't know, ask Lucas Paquetá. James Ward-Prowse made his West Ham debut against Chelsea and got 2 assists in the same match that Chelsea's £115 million signing Moises Caicedo also made his debut, which was somewhat less successful as he gave away a penalty in a 3-1 loss. Bit of a difference from his last match of the season when he scored his first Chelsea goal from the halfway line. It's a funny old game. In other news, Szoboszlai tried for the Olympic diving team, Brian Mbeumo scored the coolest penalty ever, Rebecca Welch became the first ever female referee in the Premier League, Mr Dependable Seamus Coleman became Everton's record Premier League appearance maker, Luis Diaz's dad was kidnapped then returned, which was all just a bit odd, and Justin Kluivert became one of only 3 players to score in all of Europe's top 5 leagues after, and I'll give you 5 seconds to see if you can name them. Yes, of course, the other 2 were Stefan Jovetic and Florian Radicchio. Notts Forest were deducted 4 points for PSR breaches and Everton were deducted 10 points, which is reduced to 6 on appeal, but then for good measure slapped another 2 points on top later. Notts Forest also appealed, but the FA told them to go and swivel. In terms of goals, Haaland made it 50 goals in 48 Premier League matches, beating the record from Andy Cole, who took 65 matches. Pfft, slow. Garnacho scored a redonkulous overheader against Everton, and there were 8 different goal scorers in Newcastle's 8-0 win over Sheffield United, the first time that's ever happened in the Premier League. Villa qualified for Europe's top competition for the first time since '83, Spurs finished in the Europa League spot with their 10-0-0 formation, Man United continued being Man United, finishing their lowest ever Premier League position. New owner Jim Ratcliffe showed a complete lack of priorities when he sent an email to staff moaning not about getting spanked 4-0 by Crystal Palace, but about the tidiness of the stadium and training ground. Their food hygiene rating was dropped to 1 star, which is kind of like their performances, and to epitomise their season, a YouTube prankster managed to get onto their team bus, showing that they can't even defend their bus. After joining with Burnley at the end of April, Erik ten Hag said that Man United are one of the most dynamic and entertaining teams in the league at the moment. You can tell he came from Amsterdam because it seems he was smoking something, although he's probably right, they are quite entertaining, just probably not in the way he thinks they are. And in early June, a judge found a man guilty of assaulting Roy Keane, but to be fair, that's his job. Kobbie Mainoo and Mohamed Kudus had good seasons, as did Alexander Isak, Jared Banthwaite, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer and Ødegaard amongst others. And Dominic Solanke surprisingly smashed in 19 goals, which was enough to get him onto the England squad for the Euro. Oh, hang on, no it didn't, did it, Gareth? At the other end of the scale, Calvin Phillips was on loan at West Ham from Man City, the less said about that the better, and Andre Onana was caught using Vaseline on his gloves, which probably explains a few things. Mo Salah had a strop with Klopp for being left on the bench for 80 minutes, and I worked this out, at 350 grand a week, this meant he earned over 2.5 grand for sitting on the bench for 80 minutes, which works out at 35 quid a minute, the poor thing. In manager news, Jurgen Klopp announced he was leaving Liverpool earlier in the season, leading Pep to say he'll sleep better. Not sure if he was taking the piss or not, but Liverpool agreed a compensation deal with Arne Slot from Feyenoord. West Ham confirmed that Moyes would leave in the summer, then met with sporting manager Ruben Amorim in London in April, causing some Portuguese fans to turn on him, and he later apologised for the talk, said it was a mistake. But we've all done it, haven't we? I mean, we've all accidentally jumped on a plane to a different country for a job interview. Easy mistake to make. And after his change of heart, West Ham eventually agreed a deal with Julen Lopetegui. And Robbie De Zerbi announced that he was leaving Brighton after 2 years, taking most of his staff with him. And then Poch announced he was leaving Chelsea by mutual consent, which is just football mumbo jumbo for sacked. And he was replaced by Leicester manager Enzo Maresca. Sheffield United were the first to be relegated in late April, but to be honest it's been a case of when, not if, for a while now, especially when you consider they're the first team to concede 100 goals in a 38 game season, and they're that good they only needed 36 games to do it. And to really epitomise their season, don't forget they were beating Spurs heading into the 98th minute of their game and still lost. They go down in the company of, well, Vincent Kompany and Burnley, who spent 100 million just to become worse, and Luton, who needed to win about 26-0 on the last day but didn't, funnily enough, meaning that for only the second time ever in the Premier League, all 3 promoted teams went straight back down. They'll be replaced next season by Leicester, Ipswich Town for the first time in 22 years, which is exciting, and Southampton, who finished 3 points behind Leeds in the league but beat them in the playoff final, meaning that Leeds have lost 6 out of 6 playoffs in the last 37 years. For the second season running, the league smashed its goal record with the highest goals per game rate since 1965, but no season is complete without mention of VAR. Remember the good old days before it. The VAR assistants were clearly off their heads in the Spurs versus Liverpool match when the goal was incorrectly ruled out for offside. Spurs then won, leading to Klopp asking for the match to be replayed, which was never likely to happen, but could happen. And if you're wondering what I'm on about, wait towards the end of the video and you'll see what I mean. And referee Simon Hooper blew the whistle when Jack Grealish was through on goal in the last minute against Spurs, which was pretty cheeky, but at least Haaland took it well. Andre Onana assaulted Sasa Kalajic and got away with it. It took over 4 minutes to analyse Anthony Gordon's goal against Arsenal in minute detail, resulting in Arteta calling the decisions.
It's embarrassing. It's a disgrace. That's what it is. A disgrace. It's a disgrace. It's embarrassing. That's how I feel.
Martin Ødegaard caught the ball in the box and got away with it against Liverpool. Notts Forest went on a VAR rant and Mark Clattenburg, their referee analyst, whatever that is, left the club after Forest slightly hinted at the video assistant referee Stuart Atwell being a Luton fan, the club they were battling relegation against. Atwell's punishment for some questionable calls was to be selected as a video assistant referee for the Euros. Awkward. And then to really top it off, ex-Premier League ref John Moss has apparently gone to be the head of referees in Scotland, although that's from the Scottish Sun, so take that with a pinch of salt. Wolves released a statement hinting how crap VAR is, and clubs voted whether to scrap it or not, but it appears that teams love the chaos and the only club who voted for it to be scrapped was Wolves. Over in the FA Cup, Manchester derbies are like buses, never come along then two come at once. After last year was the first ever all-Manchester FA Cup final and they've both gone and done it again. This was after Chelsea against City in the semi-final in which Nicholas Jackson couldn't finish his dinner, and in the other semi-final United scraped past Coventry on penalties after a controversial match, shall we say. But Man City were hoping to become the first team to win the league and cup double back to back, but instead the noisy neighbours got their own double with 2 goals. Garnacho became the first teenager to score in the FA Cup final since Ronaldo in 2004, and Mainu became the first teenager to score in the FA Cup final since Garnacho 9 minutes before him. And also special mention for Maidstone United, who beat Premier League bound Ipswich Town in the FA Cup, who were 98 places above them, so fair play to them. And this year the FA announced that they're scrapping replays and will instead plough 33 million quid into the football pyramid annually, apparently. The big story from Germany was surely Eric Dyer, not only signing for Bayern, but later triggering a 1-year contract extension. I mean, seriously, is it any wonder they didn't win their 300th title in a row? That honour, of course, went to Bayer Leverkusen, who won their first ever Bundesliga title, which puts them level with Rapid Vienna. Yes, the team from Austria, who both now have 1 German title each. But did they do it unbeaten? They went into the last game against Augsburg, and yes, of course they did, to set a German record as no team has ever completed a Bundesliga season unbeaten, and scored about 1,000 goals past the 85th minute. I'll surely never have a season like that again. But coming back to Eric Dyer, I was only joking, he actually had a decent second half of the season, to be fair to him. Harry Kane smashed in a load of goals, set the record for most hat-tricks in a debut season. Then he even scored his 400th career goal against Frankfurt, and to top it off, Bayern lost on the final day to finish 3rd, making it the first time they haven't finished in the top 2 in 13 years. I'm a firm believer in Kane and his abilities, but geez, there must be some truth to him being cursed. How else would this happen? 3 teams that have had contrasting seasons are Union Berlin, who finished in the top 5 the last 2 seasons, but this season only finished outside the bottom 3 on goal difference. They were not on a mad run of 12 straight defeats in all comps from September to November, probably because they were playing the Champions League for the very first time, so in preparation for that, to have a good go with it, they made 10 new signings and got rid of 16 others, which funnily enough didn't work out. And talking of getting rid, they then sacked their manager Urs Fischer. Then the Stuttgart, who for the past 2 seasons have finished 15th and 16th, so their second place finish came as a bit of a surprise. I mean, they only avoided relegation last season through the relegation playoffs, and they lost 4 first-team players to AFCON and the Asian Cup, including top striker Serhou Guirassy, so what they've done is bonkers. Borussia Dortmund also had a weird season, finishing 5th, as their last time they finished outside the top 4 was 2015, but they still made it to the Champions League final, where they probably should have won, to be honest. And Little Heidenheim, in their first ever season of the Bundesliga, finished very respectfully in 8th, only just missing out on the Conference League qualification position, so fair play to them. Aside from Kane, other top performers were surely Florian Wirtz, Granit Xhaka, Grimaldo, Palacios, Frimpong and Guirassy, who only has a €17.5 million release clause. Lucas Radecki was a war for Leverkusen, and the prodigal son returned to Dortmund when Jadon Sancho rocked up at the Signal Iduna Park and signalled to Man United what they've been missing. In terms of managers, on one hand, Thomas Tuchel announced he was leaving Bayern at the end of the season, then announced he might change his mind, then said he's leaving, make your mind up, and on the other, Frank Schmidt set a new German record by being in charge of Heidenheim for 16 years. As it happened, Tuchel was replaced by Vincent Kompany, because why wouldn't one of the world's top teams want a manager who dragged his team through relegation with a woeful record? It was such a surprise that some of the Burnley staff didn't even take the report seriously. But let's remind ourselves that Bayern tried for Nagelsmann, Rangnick, Xabi Alonso, Oliver Glasner, Hansi Flick, and even tried to get Tuchel to change his mind. So Kompany wasn't exactly top of the wish list. Not to be outdone, but the fans wanted to get in on the act as well. There were 205 arrests before the Rhine derby, and there were 2 demonstrations. Dortmund fans interrupted their 4-0 win over Cologne by throwing chocolate coins onto the pitch in a protest about the league's TV rights, and Stuttgart protested against privately owned clubs when they played RB Leipzig by throwing tennis balls onto the pitch in January, a match which Stuttgart won 5-2. And on the subject of fans, the Bundesliga had the highest average attendances of any top 5 league. Amazing what happens when matches are made affordable. They'll all be joined next year by Holstein Kiel for their first ever season in the Bundesliga. St Pauli, those little rascals who use a skull and crossbones as an official logo, are back after 13 years, and there was drama in the relegation playoff as Bochum played second tier Dusseldorf, lost the first leg 3-0, won the second leg 3-0, then won on pens to stay in the league, which is more than what can be said about Cologne, who went down to the Zwei Bundesliga for the first time in 6 years, and Darmstadt, who won 3 matches all season and strangely enough went straight back down. In the Cup, Bayern were knocked out early by Saarbrücken, who also beat Karlsruhe and Frankfurt. But they're not actually German Cup virgins, as 4 years ago they become the first 4th tier side to reach the semi-finals. In the final, Leverkusen won despite playing a half with 10 men to put them level with their opponents from the 2nd division Kaiserslautern in terms of German Cup wins, to complete a double, and all unbeaten. Not too shabby at all. Over in Italia, Inter won the Scudetto for the 20th time at AC Milan in a relatively straightforward, peaceful match. Joke! There were 3 red cards during the match as Inter, for the first time ever, won the title at the home of AC, which is also Inter's home, but you know what I mean. There was also a lovely little story as Marcus Thuram scored what proved to be the winning goal for Inter with his papa Lilian in the crowd, putting Inzaghi's first Scudetto as manager. This meant that with 20 league titles, Inter can now put a new star on their shirt, with each star meaning 10 Scudetti, making Juventus the only other club with more than 1 star on their shirt now. At the end of the season, champions Inter changed owners after their previous ones couldn't pay their debts. Bologna and their manager Thiago Motta qualified for Europe for the very first time. Napoli have gone from ripping up the league last year to not even qualifying for any European competition, thanks to manager Rudi Garcia, who was hired after legend Luciano Spalletti left. Guillermo Ochoa proved he really is a World Cup specialist when his team Salernitana finished rock bottom by a mile, winning 2 matches all season, and they sacked manager Fabio Liverani after 1 point from his first 5 games in charge. Fiorentina started well and sat 4th going into January, and Juventus were able to focus on the league after being sent to the naughty step by being banned from European competition, but still only finished 3rd. In player news, Jan Sommer was perhaps the best keeper in Europe. Lautaro Martinez had a very good season and became only one of 9 players to score over 100 goals for Inter, which are rookie numbers compared to Ciro Immobile, who became the first player to score 200 goals for Lazio. Milan's Francesco Camara became Serie A's youngest ever player, breaking Maldini's record, aged 15 years 260 days, even needing special permission from the league to play, bless him, after he scored 483 goals in 87 matches for the youth teams. Yes, you heard right, 483 in 87, which works out at over 5 goals a match, so keep an eye on him. In other player news, Paul Pogba was banned for 4 years for a doping offence, which probably explains his penalties, although he said he plans to appeal the ban. And Leonardo Bonucci also left to join Union Berlin and threatened to sue Juve. Last season's Serie A Young Player of the Year, Nicola Fagioli, won this season's Gambler of the Year as he was banned for 7 months, along with Sandro Tonali. And Olivier Giroud added to his legend status when he changed positions to goalkeeper. In manager news, Lecce sacked their manager Roberto De Versa. Not sure why, all he did was headbutt Verona striker Thomas Henry, for which the referee protected Henry by sending him off. Roma sacked Mourinho, who later joined Fenerbahce, but not before he got a red card for making a crybaby gesture towards the Monza bench in October. In other news, 4 Udinese fans were banned for life for racially abusing Milan keeper Mike Maignan, and Serie A saw its first all-female refereeing team in the Inter against Torino match. In the Cup, Juve beat Atalanta in the Coppa Italia final, meaning Juventus have won their last 2 cup finals, both against Atalanta, and Max Allegri's reward for winning the cup was to be sacked 2 days later. Next season there'll still be 20 teams in Serie A after the league's clubs voted against reducing the league to 18 teams. And 3 of those teams will be Parma for the first time in 3 years, Como for the first time in 21 years, and they were co-owned by Thierry Henry and Cesc Fabregas, with Dennis Wise on the board for those old enough to remember him, and Venezia, who will show their lovely shirts in the Serie A next season after winning the playoff final against Cremonese. Coming up is a very quick whiz around the news from Europe, including the Champions League and some other stuff, but if you like what you're hearing and think I'm worthy, then please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get enough subscribers to retire, so it would mean the world to me. Around Europe, Sporting won their second title in 4 years under Ruben Amorim. PSV won the Eredivisie for the first time in 6 years and only lost once all season. And Ajax recorded their worst start to a season ever. Meanwhile, Vitesse were only 23 points from safety after being deducted 18 points just for knowing Roman Abramovich. And further up north, Icelandic team Valur signed national team legend Gylfi Sigurdsson after they heard that he's really good in the middle of the park. In Belgium, a can of worms was officially opened when the Genk vs Anderlecht match was replayed after the VAR error in the first match. In Turkey, the Ankara Gucci president threw a punch at the referee after the match against Rizespor. In Scotland, the title ended up being a fight between... No, it's not that one. Is that it? No. Wait. Where did I put... Celtic and Rangers, with the Hoops winning. And in the second division, Arbroath sent on their keeper Ali Adams to play outfield against Roath Ravers for some reason, and he smashed in a 30-yard half volley. And in a lovely heartwarming story, Hajduk Split signed national team legends Nikola Kalinic and Ivan Perisic on €1 contracts, with Kalinic getting a Euro season and Perisic earning considerably more at €1 a month, although the league was won by Dinamo Zagreb for a change. UEFA President Alexander Seferin announced he'd step down at the end of the term in 2027, saying, "I'm tired after COVID, 2 wars and nonsense projects of a Super League." The awkward thing here is that the Super League nonsense, as he puts it, was led by Andrea Agnelli, who was not only the president of Juventus and the European Club Association, but he's also a personal friend and Seferin is godfather to one of Agnelli's daughters. I won't bore you with what he said about Agnelli, you could probably Google it if you wanted to, or Bing it. Other search engines are available, but let's just say there are probably a few angry words said in the Agnelli household. In other news affecting Europe, in late April, Premier League clubs agreed to go ahead with plans for a spending cap from the start of the 25-26 season. I won't bore you with the details, but if it was in effect last season, the only club in breach of this would have been Chelsea, who funnily enough were the only club not to bother voting. And the only villains who voted against the cap were, well, the villains, Aston Villa, Man City and Man United. And the PGMOL confirmed that they're trying to get the rules changed, which would allow refs to explain decisions to crowds inside the stadiums, which should prevent shit like the Notts Forest debacle. In other news, I bet you never thought you'd hear Diego Maradona's name in the 2024 season review, but the Golden Ball he won in 1986, which had been lost, turned up this season and has been auctioned off. The rumours are that he lost it in a poker game or gave it to the mafia to pay off a drug debt, but you've got to hand it to him just like he handed it to us in the 1986 World Cup. Both are very reasonable explanations when you consider it's Diego Maradona. But no season review is complete without looking at the big one, the Champions League. In the groups, Group A saw Copenhagen finish second ahead of Galatasaray and Man United, with Rooney scoring the winner against Man United, and they progressed for only the second time in their history. But Man U fans can have some comfort in breaking a record this season. 15 goals conceded, making it the worst ever group stage performance by an English club. Bayern finished top of the group for the 6th season in a row, which now means they haven't lost in 40 group stage matches going back to 2017, which is not only bonkers, but a Champions League record. And Thomas Müller became only the 3rd player in history to have 100 UCL wins under his belt, after Ronnie and Casillas. In Group B, Sevilla had a woeful campaign and finished bottom of the group. Group C was won by Real Madrid. Moving on. In Group D, Real Sociedad were playing their first Champions League since 1912 or something like that, and finished top of their group above Inter, Benfica and Salzburg. Over in Group E, there were 94 minutes on the clock when Lazio keeper Ivan Provedel, wearing number 94, became only the 4th keeper to score a UCL goal against Atletico Madrid. In Group F, Newcastle won only once, but they made it a memorable one with a 4-1 hammering of PSG, who eventually finished second on goal difference, with Dortmund top despite their crappy league season. In Group G, Man City finished top for the 7th season in a row, and in other news, the sky is blue and grass is green. This group saw the worst performance of the whole group stage after Crvena Treviso finished with only 1 point. And in Group H, Barca and Porto went through, Barca a little later than they wanted as they only needed to beat Shakhtar to go through but lost. After UEFA got rid of the away goals rule a couple of seasons ago, it threw up some exciting knockout matches. Nothing really a note in the second round unless we count referee Marco Di Bello being banned by Serie A for 1 match, but was still selected by UEFA to be the 4th official in the Madrid against Leipzig match. So fast forward to the quarter-finals, which saw Spurs legend Harry Kane playing against bitter rivals Arsenal, and he scored in the first leg to really rub it in. And Mikel Arteta took it well by saying that Bayern didn't play their usual game to get through. Tuchel responded it was Bayern's big game history that gave them the edge, kind of kicking Arsenal while they were down, perhaps hinting at the fact that Arsenal don't have one. The quarters also saw Barca going out to PSG, which descended into chaos as Araujo got a red card, teammate Ilkay Gundogan, rather than stood by him, blamed him, João Cancelo received death threats, Barca were fined over racist fan behaviour during the game, and to top it all, Mbappe allegedly started a scrap in the tunnel after the game. But other than that, he passed without incident. One of the other quarter-finals saw the only 2 teams with perfect records on the group stage as Man City played Real Madrid, which ended 4-4 on aggregate, and Real going through on pens after 2 matches filled with bangers. Rodri took the defeat as well as Arteta did, by having a little whinge that he saw only 1 team, and that Madrid scored with their only chance. Real have only twice before won all 6 group games in this format of the UCL, and what happened one of those times? They lost the semi-finals to Bayern, who were their semi-final opponents this time, and it looked to be heading the same way until Tuchel took off all his best attackers for some reason. Real Madrid subbed on Joselu for some reason, and he scored twice in the last few minutes with a big helping hand for Neuer to send Madrid to London, if that makes sense. We'll gloss over the very controversial decision to disallow De Ligt's goal in the dying seconds. Joining them at Wembley was Borussia Dortmund, who really did a number over PSG in the semis, and the final saw Hummels and Royce in another UCL final with Dortmund after their loss in 2013, and just as inevitable as life, death and taxes, Real Madrid won the final after an absolute ball fest of a match, to be honest. Mats and assist in the opposite team just like he did in the quarter final. At least their 2-0 win meant that it wasn't 5-1-0 wins on the bounce, I guess. Dortmund would take some comfort from knowing that Madrid now owe them £4.3 million due to a clause in Bellingham's contract, with an extra £1.7 million due if he gets into the team of the season. So it's not all bad, I suppose. Some of the records were set during the tournament. Lamine Yamal became the youngest player to start a UCL match, stealing the record from Celestine Babayaro of all people. At the other end of the scale, Pepe became the oldest player and goalscorer in the UCL history during the group stage, and Lewandowski became only the 3rd player after CR7 and Messi to score 100 UEFA club goals. The owners of the Europa League, Sevilla, weren't in the competition this year, so it gave others a chance. Atalanta appeared in their 2nd final of the season after the Coppa Italia against Bayer Leverkusen, who again scored in the 97th minute of their semi-final against Roma to keep their unbeaten run going. I just don't know how they keep doing it. Somebody needs to give them a urine test or something. Something ain't quite right. But alas, it wasn't to be in the final, as they finally lost after 900 games or something, as Ademola Lookman scored the first hat-trick in a major European final in 49 years, to make it 3rd time lucky for him after losing the Coppa Italia and AFCON finals this season. Over in the Conference League, in a lovely little story, Klaksvik became the first ever team from the Faroe Islands to compete in the group stage of a European competition and even won a match. Credit to Olympiacos, who ended West Ham's record of 17 games unbeaten in Europe for an English team, then brushed aside Aston Villa to make their first European final against Fiorentina, who played in back-to-back European finals for the first time since the swinging 60s. The final itself was an absolute bore fest. Both teams cancelled each other out, and in the end Olympiacos won their first European trophy with a late winner by El Kaabi. Of course it was, top scorer of the competition and the guy who Villa fans are still having nightmares about. And finally, we've spoken about teams, now give the players some love. Victor Osimhen became the first Nigerian since Kanu in 1999 to win the CAF Player of the Year. Messi won his 8th Ballon d'Or somehow, which was the first time Ronnie wasn't nominated since 2003, and Erling Haaland won UEFA's Player of the Year. Not bad for a League 2 player. And that's it. As the season comes to a close, so does my video. I've waffled long enough, so thanks for watching. There's a lot to cover, so I hope I covered all the good stuff. If there's anything I missed out, then feel free to cuss me in the comments. Watch these videos on screen because they're relevant to teams in this video. Subscribe, like, share, don't eat yellow snow, wear protection, whatever, and see you for the Euros.